The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Education, leading the world of digital and video learning. Discovery Education. Connect to a world of learning.
Of the Earth's 7 continents, South America is unique for many different reasons. For example, South America is home to the world's longest mountain range. It's also home to the world's largest river, its driest desert, its biggest rainforest, and several of our planet's most spectacular waterfalls. In addition, South America is home to a truly dazzling array of living creatures that are found in the wild nowhere else on Earth. But South America isn't just about its natural wonders, because it's also a place with bustling modern cities with vibrant urban centers. And lots of small, peaceful towns, too. South America is the 4th largest continent after Asia, Africa, and North America when it comes to land area. It is roughly triangular in shape. Its northernmost coast borders the Caribbean Sea. Its eastern coasts border the Atlantic Ocean, and its western coast borders the Pacific Ocean. The continent's landmass begins in the north on the Isthmus of Panama, not far from the Panama Canal, where the weather is warm and tropical all year. 750 miles to the south, the equator cuts across the continent. South America ends at Cape Horn, which is less than 500 miles from the frozen continent of Antarctica. It's important to note that the seasons in the temperate regions of South America are the reverse of those in the temperate regions of North America. So it's summer in Buenos Aires, Argentina, when it's winter in New York City. The continent of South America is home to 385 million people, roughly 5.5% of the world's total population, and they live in 12 independent nations and 1 colony. Brazil is South America's biggest country. In fact, it occupies nearly half of all the land of the continent. 200 million, mainly Portuguese-speaking people live in Brazil, which makes it South America's most populous country, too. And Sao Paulo, Brazil, is South America's largest city, with a population of over 20 million people. Colombia is the next most populous country in South America after Brazil. It is home to 48 million, mainly Spanish-speaking people. Colombia is, for the most part, a warm tropical country that has coastlines on both the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. Bogotá is Colombia's capital and largest city. Next in population size comes Argentina, with a mostly Spanish-speaking population of 42 million. Argentina is the 2nd largest country in South America in terms of land area. Much of the land of Argentina consists of fairly flat, open plains that are warm and moist in the north, and dry and cold in the south. Buenos Aires, the capital city of Argentina, is South America's 2nd largest city. The nation of Peru is next in population size after Argentina. Peru is home to 31 million, mostly Spanish-speaking people. Lima is Peru's largest city, as well as its capital city. 600 years ago, Peru was the headquarters of the powerful Inca Empire, which for a brief time controlled quite a large area of South America. Venezuela is next in population size after Peru. It is home to 28 million Spanish-speaking people. Venezuela is a tropical, oil-rich nation with a lot of interesting geographical features. Caracas, seen here, is the nation's capital and largest city. After Venezuela comes Chile, a beautiful country with a population of 18 million Spanish-speaking people. The lands of Chile lie between the peaks of the Andes Mountains and the Pacific Ocean. They extend for 2,700 miles southward from Peru, making Chile the world's longest country. Santiago is Chile's capital and its largest city. After Chile is Ecuador, a small mountainous country with a Spanish-speaking population of 16 million people. Quito, seen here, is Ecuador's capital and second largest city. Bolivia, another mountainous country, is next in population size after Ecuador. The country is named for Simón Bolívar, the man who helped 4 South American nations achieve independence from Spain back in the 1820s. The majority of Bolivia's 10 million citizens are of Native American descent. So most Bolivians speak various traditional languages as well as Spanish. La Paz, seen here, is the second largest city in Bolivia and is its administrative capital. Next in population size is Spanish and native Guarani-speaking Paraguay, a landlocked country of forested grassy plains and small hills that is home to 6.5 million people. Asunción is Paraguay's capital and largest city. Uruguay is the smallest of the Spanish-speaking countries in South America, with a population of 3.5 million people, nearly all of whom are of European descent. More than half of the land in Uruguay is devoted to raising sheep and cattle. Montevideo is the capital and largest city of Uruguay. Guyana is a warm tropical nation and former British colony with a population of 750,000 people. Guyana is the only South American country where the official language is English. Georgetown, seen here, is Guyana's capital and largest city. Suriname is right next to Guyana. It's a former colony of the Netherlands with a population of 500,000 Dutch-speaking people, and it's South America's smallest independent nation. Paramaribo, seen here, is Suriname's largest city and its capital. The colony of French Guiana is even smaller in size than Suriname and has a population of only about 250,000 people. It's a possession of the European nation of France and is the only colony on the continent of South America today. Cayenne, seen here, is French Guiana's largest city and is home to nearly half of all the colony's citizens. Now that we've learned how the lands of South America have been divided up by political boundaries into various nations, let's take a look at the continent's most important geographical regions. The first of these are 3 areas of high elevation. In the west are the Andes Mountains, with hundreds of peaks over 15,000 feet high that run all the way from the north to the south of the continent. In the east are 2 highland regions that are much lower in elevation than the towering Andes. These are the Guiana Highlands, where Angel Falls, the world's tallest waterfall, is located. And to the south of them are the larger Brazilian highlands. In between these high elevation regions is a vast area of lowlands comprised of 3 different river basins. The most important of these are the Orinoco River Basin in the north, the Amazon River Basin in the middle, and the Rio de la Plata Basin below it. The last of the continent's geographical regions consists of the narrow band of coastal plains that run along most of its saltwater shoreline. Now let's examine some of these regions in more detail. The Andes Mountains are probably South America's most dramatic and beautiful geographical feature. The rugged Andes peaks seen here were formed as a result of the collision of enormous tectonic plates that make up the Earth's crust. In the case of the Andes, the Nazca tectonic plate that lies under the Pacific Ocean slides under the South American plate by a process called subduction, and the resulting force causes the mountains to be uplifted from the surface. When the tectonic plates move against one another, intense friction occurs and extreme heat develops. As a result, rock deep in the earth melts into lava and often bursts through the surface and builds up to form volcanoes. So, in addition to all of the mountains created by the geological uplift process, the Andes Range has numerous volcanic peaks too. The Andes Mountains are very tall. In fact, they contain the second highest peaks in the world after the Himalayas. 22,800-foot Mount Aconcagua in Argentina, seen here, is the tallest peak in the Western Hemisphere. The Andes are also about 4,400 miles long, longer than any other mountain range in the world. They extend from the northernmost part of the continent to as far as the huge island of Tierra del Fuego, where the southernmost cities in the world are located. The largest of these cities, Ushuaia, Argentina, seen here, is home to around 50,000 people. The Andes Mountains average over 100 miles in width, except in Bolivia, where they are nearly 400 miles wide. This wide spot is the location of a huge, high-altitude plateau called the Altiplano, which is the site of Lake Titicaca, South America's largest lake based on its water volume. Another very important geographical feature of the Andes are its many glaciers and ice fields. The largest of these are found in the southern parts of the continent in Chile and Argentina, in a region known as Patagonia. Glaciers form when more snow piles up than melts over a long period of time. Eventually, the weight compresses the snow into solid ice. The Perito Moreno Glacier in Argentina, seen here, is just one of 48 glaciers fed by the southern Patagonian ice field. This giant ice field covers over 5,000 square miles of the Andes Mountains and is the third largest reserve of fresh water on Earth. The Perito Moreno Glacier is one of 3 Patagonian glaciers that is actually growing in size at a time when most of the world's glaciers are shrinking due to global warming. Currently, it is 19 miles long. When a glacier reaches open water, pieces of it break off or calve as the ice melts. The biggest chunks become floating icebergs of a brilliant bluish color, and they can present a serious hazard to ships when encountered at sea. The face of this glacier rises 20 stories above the lake's surface, but further up into the mountains, the ice is typically more than twice that deep. Big glaciers are really just huge rivers of ice that slide downhill at the rate of several feet per day. As the ice moves along, it grinds the rock of the mountains into sand and gravel. Over a long period of time, moving glaciers carve out valleys. And when the glaciers melt, they frequently leave behind beautiful lakes like these. The Andes Mountains in the nations of Bolivia, Peru, and Ecuador are home to most of the native or indigenous people who live in South America today. In fact, nearly 15 million indigenous people live in the Peruvian Andes alone. The city of Cusco, Peru, seen here, is located high in the mountains, over 11,000 feet above sea level. Native people come to Cusco from nearby towns and villages to perform traditional dances at a special festival held here every year. Each group of dancers wears colorful handmade costumes that represent the communities from which they come. Like most native Andean people, the majority of those attending the festival tend to be fairly poor, and they live in small communities like this one. They usually walk from place to place because they don't own cars, and they usually raise most of their own food on small plots of land. Perhaps the most important native food plant raised in the Andes is the potato. Potato plants were domesticated in South America thousands of years ago and have been a mainstay of the diet here ever since. Besides potatoes, Andean people also grow corn, peanuts, various vegetables, and several kinds of grain as well. Coca is a common domesticated plant in the Andes. It is raised for its leaves, which are dried and chewed for the stimulant effect they produce. The highly addictive narcotic drug cocaine is made by treating ground-up coca leaves with certain chemicals. In addition to the numerous plants they've domesticated over many thousands of years, the native people of the Andes have also managed to domesticate 3 interesting South American animals as well. The first are guinea pigs. These small, cuddly rodents are raised for their meat and are also used in certain native religious ceremonies. In the Andes, it's not unusual to find these little animals running around inside of people's homes. Other important domesticated animals of the Andes are alpacas, members of the camel family that have been carefully bred for their soft, delicate fur. Once an alpaca's fur has been clipped, it is dyed, spun into thread, and woven into the cloth used to make colorful Andean garments. The third important native animal is the llama, which, like the alpaca, belongs to the camel family. Llamas are roughly twice the size of alpacas. They have coarse fur and have been bred mainly to serve as pack animals, to carry heavy things from place to place. But llamas are raised for their meat as well. Guanacos, like these, are relatives of llamas and alpacas. Guanacos have never been domesticated and roam freely in the open grasslands of the Andes and in a few other parts of South America too. 500 years ago, the ancestors of most Andean people lived under the control of a powerful tribe called the Inca that was ruled by an emperor from his capital in Cusco, Peru. The great Inca Empire developed and thrived between the years 1438 and 1533. At its peak, the Inca Empire consisted of lands that now belong to the modern nations of Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, Chile, and Colombia. The reason the Inca Empire didn't last very long was that Spanish invaders thirsting for gold tricked the emperor and then captured and killed him. The Inca were famous for beautiful golden ornaments like this one. Unfortunately, few have survived, because most of them were melted down into gold bars and shipped back to Spain many centuries ago. Even so, many other traces of the Inca civilization do still remain. They include an excellent system of well-made roads, incredible farming terraces like these, carved out of steep rocky hillsides that were used for raising crops, and lots of complicated irrigation systems for supplying them with water. But the most fascinating remnant of that great civilization is the ancient city of Machu Picchu, which is located only about 50 miles from the Inca capital of Cusco. The city was founded around the year 1400. It sits high above the Urubamba River in a saddle between two jagged mountain peaks, and is often engulfed in the morning mists that rise up from the river far below. When the mists clear, the fabulous views from Machu Picchu are truly unforgettable. Creating a city on these steep hillsides was an incredibly difficult feat. Even so, 140 structures were constructed, as well as an excellent water system, and enough terraced land to grow food for about 4 times as many people as ever lived here. The Inca were truly amazing stone workers. They could cut huge blocks of stone so precisely that they fit together without any mortar. In fact, at Machu Picchu, the lines where the building blocks meet are often so perfect that not even a blade of grass will fit between them. No one knows for certain why the city was constructed. Some think it may have been a religious center, or that it may have served as a private estate for the emperor. Even though the Spanish conquerors never found the city, Machu Picchu was abandoned for unknown reasons slightly more than a century after it was founded. And it was all but forgotten until its rediscovery by archaeologists early in the 20th century.